Did you see Question Time last night? All the questions about climate change, all the Greta Thunberg cult in the audience, all the far leftist extremists from Extinction Rebellion, all working for Greta Thunberg, Soros' new golden girl. Even though she's only 16, that means that people will say, well, she's just a child. Well, of course she's just a child. That's who we should take advice from now. Just like the Pope goes and takes advice from that child. Just like the divine wisdom of children. They know more than us adults because they can feel and we just think and we just use facts and, they can use feelings, so apparently that's better. Question Time had a fake audience of scripted people that were there to basically maintain the illusion of being an audience, being a hand-picked member of the general public, just being a sample of the general public, but it clearly wasn't, because the general public does not care that much about climate change. It does not believe that climate change is linked to CO2, is linked to man-made activity, is linked to all these things that they say. They completely ignore the sun, they completely ignore the rates of cooling, they ignore the medieval warm period, they ignore all these other things in the past, but never mind about that, because, it's humans that are causing the climate change. Greta Thunberg told me so. And if anyone knows, it's going to be a 16-year-old girl. If anyone knows about climate change, it's going to be David Attenborough, because David Attenborough studied wildlife and does voiceovers for other people filming documentaries about wildlife. He knows nothing about climate science, so if anyone knows about climate science, it's going to be him. He didn't have any qualifications in climate science. He's got no knowledge of climate science at all. But because it's David Attenborough, he must know everything. You should have died about 10 years ago, David Attenborough. All the programs now are just basically, what are they? They don't even feel like wildlife programs. They don't feel educational. They just feel like kind of entertainment things where you're just watching, a sequence set to music. Really intrusive, invasive music where you can't even hear what's going on or anything. They're not nature programs anymore. They've dumbed down to the point where they're just like a sport event or something entertaining or something that we just get bedazzled by and we don't learn anything. Anyway, that's a separate criticism of David Attenborough. My criticism now is about Question Time's audience, because Question Time's audience last night were clearly not hand-picked members of the general public. They were far-left extremists working for Extinction Rebellion. I almost call them Extermination Rebellion. I don't know what to call them. Extinction Rebellion. Ooh, let's just take some random words and just tack them together and say that we've got the moral high ground. You don't even have to listen to us. We are the new democracy. Mob rule. Yeah, that's democracy. Oh, they've got the moral high ground because they believe that climate change is absolutely sacrosanct, and anyone deviating from that is a climate denier, akin to a Holocaust denier, and soon will be criminalised, and soon will be locked up for having these views. You can't have these views anymore because, it's now too dangerous. It's just like vaccinations. We need mandatory vaccinations because people who don't get vaccinated are the ones that apparently spread the disease, even though it's the ones that get vaccinated that shed the disease, and there's no actual proof of the pseudoscience of something that the scientists like to call herd immunity. There's no proof of herd immunity. In fact, can you quantify herd immunity? If I have a vaccine, everyone else in a crowd has a vaccine, how do we all keep each other safe through herd immunity if the vaccines are doing it? It doesn't make sense. It's a pseudoscience. Because the vaccines aren't doing it, they came up to explain away with herd immunity. And then when they couldn't actually quantify herd immunity, they just say, well, the vaccines do it. But they say safe and effective, but then they also have the Supreme Court saying no vaccine is safe or effective. All vaccines are unquestioningly dangerous. They all contain squalene, they all contain thimerosal. That is mercury, and mercury, no matter how small a dose is poisonous to every cell in your body. Isn't it funny, when you were younger, you used to get diseases like mumps, measles, rubella. You're meant to get them when you're younger so you could build up the immunity and then fight them so that when you get them later on, you don't die from them. Nowadays, people don't get the diseases, they get vaccinated against the diseases, and then when they eventually get the diseases in their teenage years, they die from them. So they're much, much more dangerous now. You're supposed to build up natural immunity. This is what life is supposed to be like. When you breastfeed a baby, you're supposed to give them the natural immunity. That's why bottle feeding doesn't work. It doesn't give them the immunity. It doesn't have any of the cannabinoids or whatever inside it. But anyway, that's a different subject again. Back to Question Time. God, I keep deviating. It was lovely to see Brexiteer John Rhys-Davies. But he was having such a hard time because the audience were all basically scripted panelists as well. They weren't audience members, so they were all shouting him down. Not only shouting him down, but eloquently laying out the talking points. Eloquently laying out the media talking points and buzzwords and the way that you're supposed to do it. All perfectly, all to a T, all in front of him. And then shouting at him when he says about Brexit or immigration policy. Yeah, because mass immigration is obviously something that everyone wants, isn't it? And if you object to mass immigration, if you object to mass uncontrolled immigration, then you're far right, according to some of these people. Like according to Ian Dale, who's now banned Gerard Batten from appearing on his radio show because he's decided that, apparently questioning Islam makes you far right neo-Nazi. Yeah, thanks Ian Dale. Ian Dale, Nick Ferrari, these people are scum. These people are scum. We don't like you propagandists. Why don't you get a proper job? Stop being propagandists. Why don't you work for the news and actually inform people rather than distract them with official narratives? Oh, because it pays more, doesn't it? And you're spineless. But anyway, that's LBC. Going back to Question Time, the Question Time audience, which I really don't want to do because I can't stand it. In fact, I might not watch it again. It's such a sham. It's such a sham that these people in the audience are called audience members when they are extra panelists. That's what they are. The show is taking liberties on its responsibilities to the viewer. It needs to be scrapped, quite frankly. It needs to be scrapped. Question Time needs to be axed.